What's up guys, Coach MANdler here, Team Swole Patrol. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you what I do on a daily basis for my dynamic warm-up. Now, I'd say probably 10 years ago, I was a young, dumb, and full of cum meathead that didn't see the true value in doing a quality dynamic warm-up. Just go into the gym, sling some weights around, get swole, get the hell out, and enjoy yourself. Well, these days I know better and know that if I want to get the most out of my training, it's important for me to invest a good 10 to 15 minutes in preparing my body for the war that I'm about to put it through with the weights that I'm going to lift. So if you're trying to lift as fast, forcefully, and as strong as humanly possible, trying to get as jacked as you possibly can with the genetics you've been given, and get a nasty pump while reducing the chance of you getting all snapped up and jacked up, then do yourself a favor. Throw in this dynamic warm-up on a daily basis before you start slinging weights around, and I can guarantee you're going to start having the best training experience of your life every time you go inside the gym. That's a guarantee. Throw it in. Let me know how it goes for you. Alright, kicking things off, we're going to go as simple as we possibly can to wake up all of the muscle groups surrounding our key source of power output, which is going to be our hips. If you're a power athlete, you know that rotation and extension of the hips is going to be the main source of explosiveness, power output for our lower body. So a good hip bridge, and then going a little bit more complex with a single leg hip bridge, given the fact that most athletic movements as a power athlete are going to be unilateral, is a great way to really kick things off with any dynamic warm-up. From there we can get a little bit more complex, but the main goal here is just to wake up a lot of the muscle groups surrounding our hips that are going to be responsible for those powerful movements that we're going to be doing. After that, it's going to be a little bit of activation and mobilization work. Just a great way to do that is kind of like the poor man's hurdle drills. I just set up a barbell around knee level for these up and overs that are going side to side, and then do the same thing going front and back. When you're doing these, focus on having good dorsiflexion, so pull those toes up and it's going to help even more. And while you're doing it, also try to stay as upright with that torso as possible, and also make sure you're controlling the movement. Alright, the last thing we want is to lose control of our body. Okay, so activation and mobilization of the main joints and the muscles surrounding those joints is going to be a big goal here, and anytime you're losing control of that, it's not going to be a good thing. So we want to be as athletic, mobile, and just kind of on point as possible. And whenever you're out of control, that's not a good thing, whether you're an athlete or a lifter. So always make sure every movement is deliberate and you have total control of it, even when it's a more dynamic-based movement like this, or some of the dynamic stretches that we're going to do afterwards. And speaking of activation, the next thing we're going to do to activate the muscles surrounding the main joints of movement is going to be a squat. I start with bridges and then move over to squats as far as activation drills go, because it's a little bit more complex, and we're going to follow the same mold as we did with those bridges as well. So we're going to go from less complex to more complex. Bridges are less complex of a movement than squats are, and same thing with the single leg movements. We're going to go from a bilateral to a unilateral, like you see here, from squats to reverse lunges. Make sure when you're doing these lunges you have a good 90-degree angle in the tib fib and the femur, and you're driving off that front heel, and again making sure you have control of the movement. After that, we're going to be doing a knee tuck to a lunge. Doing these, focus on not just the movement and maintaining that 90-degree angle like we talked about in the reverse lunge, but while pulling that knee up to get a good hamstring stretch, think about gripping the floor with that plant leg to make sure you're in complete control of the movement. It's very easy, especially in the beginning of your dynamic warm-up, to kind of lose balance and to be out of control, but make sure your core is tight and that plant leg is gripping the floor to keep you balanced and in control of the movement. After that, you're going to do a dynamic hurdler stretch. This is a great way to get that groin as well as the hamstring. Plus, as a little bonus, if you're doing squats that day, whether it be front squats or back squats, it's a nice way to really, kind of lube the joints and get you deeper than you might normally go. This in conjunction with other things that we're going to be doing to mobilize the hips, but ultimately it's a nice little movement prep exercise that you can do to get your body used to being more powerful and be put in better positions during any lateral movement too. So after that, we have what are called leg swings. These are another great dynamic movement you can do to get a good stretch in your hamstrings. I'm not doing them properly right now because my hamstrings are tight as can be from a lot of the deadlifts and glute ham raises I did the day before, but doing them correctly means straightening those legs out a little bit more, keeping those toes up, and keeping that back straight while just kind of relaxing and swinging them up. Next up are what I call kickbacks. This is kind of the same thing as what we're doing with the leg swings, but we're just basically swinging backwards. It's not only going to stretch the hamstrings and the glutes, but it's also going to get your hip flexor with the leg that you're going to kick back. Doing these, just try to stay as relaxed as possible. Again, try to keep that plant leg a little bit more straight and rigid than you see me doing here. This will give you a bigger stretch in your hamstrings and more of one in your hip flexors too. So only reason, again, I did that way is because my hamstrings are lit up from the day before. After that, we're going to be getting on all fours and doing some fire hydrants. With these, the whole goal is activating the glutes through hip abduction, moving the hips away from us. And when you're doing it, try to keep those arms as locked out as possible, your spine rigid, and a 90-degree angle between your tib fib and your femur. Just remember to maintain as much control of that motion as possible, and you're going to be solid with it. Afterwards, doing a rollover complex. This is a great way to get some good fluid in between the discs of your back, as well as a solid stretch in both your hamstrings and your glutes. These leg straight variations are going to be solid mainly for the hamstrings, and then once we put our feet together and bend them, that's going to be what really gets your your glutes. Quick tip for you, if you've never done these before, you're probably going to feel a little awkward doing it and not feel comfortable while swinging your legs back. The simplest way I can tell you to do it without freaking out is going to be relaxing and taking a deep breath in when you're swinging those legs back, and once you get your toes down, try to kick forward to get a good bit of momentum to get a better stretch in your hamstrings or your glutes, whichever variation you're doing. Afterwards, gonna do a high groin stretch that I absolutely love. The first time I ever did this, it felt awful yet amazing at the same time. And I'm not gonna lie, you're probably gonna get some looks whenever you do these, right up there with bridges when it looks like you're humping the ceiling. But this frog stretch, where you're essentially, it looks like you're straddling the floor with your femur and then proceeding to hump the ground, is a fantastic way to stretch your high groin. If you're an athlete, you know how terrible it can be to strain these, and it's a fantastic way to make sure that you not only put your hips in better position for more complex and dynamic movements, but also avoiding any injuries in your high groin area that might be nagging and preventing you from either getting in the gym or on the field. Alright, so next up is going to be a rocking hip flexor stretch. Hip flexors being tight is synonymous with that 9 to 5 worker bee syndrome that causes a lot of issues when it comes to getting the most out of any triple extension or any hip extension based movement like a squat or any athletic movement like jumping or running. So if you're an athlete, definitely need to make sure you're getting good hip flexor stretches in so that you can avoid getting less of the performance gains that you truly have in you right now. Next up, we're going to do a gastrocnemius and soleus stretch. So getting on your toes and your hands here. What I like to do is go kind of left and right with both my leg extended and it bent a little bit. When your leg's extended, you're going to get more of your gastrocnemius, and when it's bent a little bit, you're going to get more of the bottom of the tib fib area in the soleus. Let's say if ankle mobility is an issue in your deadlift or even a front squat or back squat, that's a fantastic way to prevent that from happening and making sure your heels don't lift up when you're trying to apply all the force through your heels in either one of those movements. From there, we're going to transition from more lower body to upper body work in our dynamic warm-up. Our mindset here is the same way we're going to approach it with lower body. Lower body, our hips are our main source of human movement, and upper body is going to be our shoulders. So everything in and around the shoulders, we want to focus on activating and mobilizing. We start with both a pronated and a supinated pull apart. When you're doing these, focus on depressing as well as retracting your shoulder blades, and think about just pulling the band apart in order to activate all the muscles surrounding the shoulders and your back. Those are going to be the ones responsible for all stabilization during overhead, incline, and flat bench press. Pretty much the main movements that we're going to be doing for our upper body. Afterwards, we're doing some band dislocations. When doing these, I like doing them with a band instead of a broomstick because it allows you to get to your body's natural limiting range of motion without you worrying about tearing shit up or cheating. So whenever you do a couple, readjust that band, grab a little bit closer in, and that will give you a deeper stretch in both your shoulders and your pecs. From there, we're going to do a shoulder, forearm, and pec stretch where we're going to keep that humerus and the radius and ulna completely aligned and parallel with the ground with your wrist in that supinated position. Once you're there, make a couple passes to get a good stretch in your shoulder and your chest by kind of pivoting outwards while maintaining a neutral spine. This is going to be a great way, as the name of the stretch implies, to get a good stretch in your forearms, your anterior delts, and your pecs. And bringing up the rear, we're going to be doing some good old-fashioned bird dogs. This is going to be the start of our core activation phase, where the whole goal and objective is to activate any and all muscles surrounding our spine so we prevent any of the power leaks that are happening from transfer of force from our lower body through our upper body. Think of your core as the bridge that allows you to get the most out of all force application that is going from your lower to upper body. So the last thing we want to do in order to get the most out of our training routine that we're going to be doing from henceforth is to activate this area so that we prevent these power leaks from dicking up the quality of our routine. Hey guys, thanks for making it all the way through the warm-up video. Look, I know it's not the sexiest thing out there, but it will position you for faster and more consistent gains, and that ripped and powerful muscle mass allows you to look good while being able to kick ass. So definitely throw it in on a daily basis, and I can promise you that you're going to start seeing better, faster, more consistent gains with what you're going for inside the gym. Now, if that is something you're looking for, then make sure you pick up your free copy of the muscle building blueprint that I put together for you by clicking on this button right here, or if you're on a cell phone or a tablet, go down to the description box and click on the first link that you see there. When you do that, I'm going to take you to another page which breaks down every powerful free module you're getting with this, as well as how it's going to help you build more of that athletic muscle mass that allows you to look and perform like an absolute beast. So just either click right here or on the link that you see in the description area, and I'll take you to that free gift page which breaks everything down for you. Appreciate your time, guys. Have a good one. MANdler out.